All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, March 28th, and this meeting is a check-in on design and usability tasks for Backdrop CMS. So if we start with our websites, backdropcms.org has a couple of long-standing issues that we would love to make some progress on. Both of them seem to be blocked at the moment. One of them is improving the user experience for finding modules, themes, and layouts, or checking to see if modules and themes and layouts you're using in Drupal 7 are available for Backdrop. This issue has also turned into a rabbit hole because we were trying to rework the way the search worked, and then we ran into some issues with the core search, and then we thought maybe we should use a different search, and then we decided to fix the core search, and then that's kind of become a ball of yarn that we're untangling. So my plan was to undo the reworking of the search and start with the retheming of the page so that it will use view modes instead of fields. And that will allow us to later switch that to search pretty easily. But it will, more importantly, also allow us to place other things on the page, like a listing not only of the module themes and layouts, but we have these things that are called like placeholder projects. And those are things like token and path auto and modules that have been moved into core have a little placeholder page that say, hey, you don't need this anymore, and this is why. And so I think if somebody's searching for path auto, rather than not returning anything at all, we should return the thing that says, oh, we have that already and you don't need it. And that'll give some people some more confidence in choosing Backdrop because it'll look like more of their stuff is ready when it actually is ready. So that, I think, is the next step there. I think I have a branch on my local site, which probably needs to be updated now that we've had several security updates for Backdrop CMS.org. That includes just the change to view modes and the new theming for the view modes. So my plan would be to push that branch, update the branch, rebase, update the branch, push it up, and then if somebody could help me test that, I don't want to push it live until someone else has looked at it, because sometimes if I only look at it the way I look at it, it doesn't work. And I don't think we have a test site set up. However, we do have a new server, and this is in the next issue, so maybe I'll move on to that next. So that's coming soon. We have a plan for move forward. It just kind of blocked by the fact that I haven't in particular had very much time lately to work on modules, themes, and layouts. The next issue.
Wait, hold on a second. So is the blocker for that, somebody testing it with fresh? I'm willing to do that. Is that something I can do?
Me pushing something testable up to a place where you can test it. The second place is we need a place to test it. And then the third thing is the person that does the testing. So the place to test it would be fine if you would pull it down to your local and you could test it on your local, but that's a little complicated because we have to get like a database and the config files from live. So if we just had a place that we could push stuff and test, like a beta site, where it was already up to date or automatically updated every time we had a syntax database or whatever, that would be ideal. Because then anyone can test it, but we're not quite there yet.
Better. But look, I'm perfectly willing to pull down the database and assemble it and test it.
Okay, great. So
I actually want to throw in something here, and hopefully I'm not hijacking.
No, go for it.
But just in case it's not part of 442, you mentioned the reasoning. One of the problems that we want to solve is the issue of people coming from Drupal and being confused as to what's included and what they need. Should we maybe address that directly? Have like a menu item, like if you're coming from Drupal, like read this.
Yeah, definitely. We have something like that in our upgrades page, but it would probably be good to have a more specific Drupal only, this is your Drupal 7 site, this is what you need to know option. Yeah. One thing I would love to have as part of that is not just a documentation page, but there's a module called upgrade status that Drupal uses that lets you know how all of your projects are in a status for what they're going to, like if you're in Drupal 7, it's like what's the Drupal 8 status of all these modules. It would be really cool if we could take that module, I think it existed for 7 from 6 as well, port it for Backdrop, and then use that to go through their list and say, hey, all of these exist. And we could have a status for like stable release versus dev version where it would be in GitHub, and then we would have like merged into core. So we could have like little color-coded checkboxes to let people know how many modules are left. It might also be able to do some like random checking of the code. If it's like a huge amount of code like commerce, it wouldn't have like an exclamation point and be like, this one's going to be hard. And then if it's just like a short like block module, it'd be like, this one's going to be easy. And so it would help people kind of gauge like how far they are from that point.
Okay. So that would be actually a Drupal module that would give you the answers relative to Backdrop.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we have a ticket for that already, of course.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
So we have discussed this with Jeff in the past. He recommended that, first of all, it will be too intrusive to list it in d.org. It's probably not going to be accepted because it's sort of.
But because it's for Backdrop, I think it could live in our contrib group too.
Yeah.
We just need to very clearly state like this is for Drupal, and maybe not even give it an official release. Just like in the documentation page, we could link to it and be like, install this on your Drupal site, and link to the GitHub tarball. And then that way we wouldn't have any issue with it showing up on the project installer where people might try and use it on their own site. But we could also use it in the future for like Backdrop 2 if that ever became an issue.
Yeah.
So I think it would be good to have it anyway, even if, I wouldn't be too concerned about our stuff not working on Drupal.
Yeah, we said that it should be a GitHub repo anyways. Well, we should get started. But now that you mentioned the upgrade status module, it's been a while since I came across that one, but yeah, maybe it might be worth sort of like forking off of that, or at least see how they do it.
Yeah, my preference would be to fork because, well, I don't know. In a perfect world, we'd still have stuff we could contribute to the Drupal project, like usability changes and stuff, but I haven't looked at it, so maybe it's fine.
Yeah.
So yes, Luke, we need a documentation page that's dedicated to Drupal. We also need some tools that are dedicated to Drupal. And I especially think now that people are thinking about Drupal 7 end of life, that would be great. I don't know if you want to peek at the upgrades page and see, where is it? About...
If we need to build some status page on d.org, there is a ticket that we have on GitHub, and it's like, where are we at, or something like that. What's the status, the current status, and it shows which modules have been ported, which are being planned to be ported. Maybe that would also be a good idea. I think we have the top 100 modules.
Yeah.
That ticket. Maybe it would be a good idea to sort of like get that list imported. Copy it to b.org and have an update, last updated as well, date, so that we know that we need to go through the list again.
So we, in our slides, we now have one slide that has a list, and I think it's like the top 70 or something. It's not exactly 100 because it has to be listed by 30, so maybe it's like 72.
Yeah, 72. Yeah.
And then we also have a slide that's like, these are all the modules that are included in core, and there's now more than 65 of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that seems like low-hanging, easily implementable, and incredibly important fruit to continue that.
Yeah, and I think I can send you a link. So I posted a link to the upgrade from Drupal page. It might be time to highlight this in a better way than just buried somewhere in our nav structure now. So maybe even putting like a big block on the homepage. It's like upgrade from Drupal 7. Links to this page would be good. And then, Luke, if you want to read this and see if there's a way we can make it less heavy reading, that might be useful. And then, if we can figure out how, so we update those slides, like every time we give a talk. I would love it if we could figure out a way to have the website like automatically show that, if we have to like iframe in these lists or something, so that we don't have to update like the slides and the website, so that pushing to the GitHub repo would make the website be updatable. So any ideas on how to do that would be great, because I think all of these resources are useful. Like, we have X of the top 100 Drupal modules ready for Backdrop. We have X Drupal modules included in Backdrop Core. All of that stuff I think is really valuable to people thinking about data. And then find out if your site is ready to use this module. Also be really great.
So should we,
I mean, I would think that would be like in the README. Like, I mean, that seems like a pretty core key issue that the people doing this will understand. I mean, it's not obscure. It's pretty straightforward.
yeah, and having a special place, like a highlighted place in b.org, like even the front page that says, if you're coming from Drupal, here's where you need to go.
Yes. Okay. I love this. This is very motivating. Okay. So, Gregory, will you please create an issue in the board queue that says add Drupal 7 info to homepage? And then we have designs for putting more stuff on the homepage. We just have less stuff on the homepage right now than fits the designs. So I think it would be really easy to just repurpose one of those bars and be like, this is the Drupal 7 one. And I think we should put 3 things in there. We should put number of Drupal 7 contrib modules, top 100 that are ready. We should also put in number of modules in core. And then third one should just be a call out to go to this page that Luke's going to be reviewing. And so I think we just got those 3 blocks there in like big numbers. That would be a huge win. And we can put it near the top somewhere. So,
Like sort of like modules already ported, modules already in core, and then where to go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That'd be
So,
great.
so I mean, you know, speaking as you know, a marketing dude, it's the you know, competitive upgrade landing pages, right? Like, you know, Drupal's the obvious one, but you know, I want them for WordPress and Wix and things like that, right?
Yep. All of them.
Maybe this is a good time to bring this up. We had the visual group meeting a couple of days ago, and one thing that came out of it is that we often mention that simple Drupal modules should work, and we sort of like wrongfully say out of the box, well, you have to do a small change, which is like change the info file. We should sort of like clarify that. But if we can automate that somehow and not make it
the coder upgrade module will do that.
No, I mean instead of coder update, like I know that we warn people, or we don't let the packaging happen on the
Oh, you mean like on the list of modules where it has the X and says doesn't work for Backdrop?
Yes.
We put a little line there that's like, try updating the info file. Warning, this might explode your site.
Why not?
So could we put a switch there that says, you know, override? I mean, can't we just do it? Like, okay, this probably won't work, but what the hell? Try it.
No, I don't think we should because there's a lot of places that check module status that would affect that we maybe don't want it to. But I think telling people to change one line in an info file is totally reasonable. My preference would actually be to put that in like devel module. So like if you have devel module on, you definitely know enough to change the module. If you don't, maybe we shouldn't be telling you to do it, because there are some modules that might destroy your site if you did it wrong.
Yeah, Jen, though this is my idea and my reasoning about that. If people have the compatibility switch on, we shouldn't be disallowing them to enable it. But what we can do is, for these modules, we should have a confirmation message the same way that we have when we uninstall modules that says you're going to break your site. The warning should still be there, like in big red, that this might break your site. Enable in your own, like taking like risk for whatever might happen, and have a big warning. But we should still allow that to happen via the UI if we can, instead of saying.
But the problem is that, so we can do that when someone's like pushing the button on the form, we can like interrupt that pattern. But the problem is, like, if they're coming from like Drupal upgrades or something, like we don't have any way to interrupt the process of them. They already have it enabled. So there's a bunch of places like that where like I think it would be really dangerous if we just had Backdrop run modules that didn't have a Backdrop line in the info file. I think like if we're dealing with user interface stuff, it will be much better to put this in devel module where it's like, you want to enable override, yes, and then devel module will go and make that change for you. Like, so there's still kind of a button clicky process, But I don't think it should happen automatically because I think it's just too dangerous to allow.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not,
We couldn't tell that it was a
but,
problem.
you know,
Sorry, Luke, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
well, I mean, clearly you don't want it to like silently do it or do it in any way that's not, you know, immediately obvious. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's actually easier than we make it out to be.
Yeah, well, that's true. You never know. We should try it and see what happens. I just want to emphasize that it needs to be done with caution because there are a lot of places where I don't think we can notify people appropriately. So we just need to have that in mind. But I do think we should look at it and see what the problem space looks like.
So in Drupal 8, it's a common pattern because they have those experimental modules, and they say that you enable them at your own risk because you might these at a later point might be removed from the code base, and then you might be left stranded with features that you cannot uninstall or remove or do something about it. I think that we could treat things in a similar way with modules.
Well, we also need to be a lot more careful because Drupal 8 is intended for a very different audience than Backdrop, where you know, most of the people in Backdrop are probably not capable. Well, I don't know, but I would hope that we would get a whole bunch of people using Backdrop who aren't capable of fixing those kinds of problems. Whereas the average Drupal site is probably going to have a dev team or at least a developer who would be able to do that. So I think that even though Drupal 8 has done things, we should look at that and be like, what are they doing? Can we steal from that? But we do need to exercise slightly more caution when we're implementing the same set of features.
Can we do the other thing? If we detect a module, instead of asking them to remove it and then install
we did fix that. We don't ask them to remove it anymore.
Okay, no, I mean, if we detect such a module existing that is a respective Drupal module, instead of asking them to replace it with the respective, if there is one, Backdrop module, we do that automatically for them?
If we have it?
Yes. So we make a check and see.
So I like that. I think it would have to be done by like installer module to make sure that they have like permissions set up and everything appropriately to do the writing. Yeah, I think that would be good because then you could be like, start your Backdrop upgrade, and then it would be like, oh, sorry, these are Drupal modules. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, there you go, you're done. Yeah, that would be really slick.
Yeah. And if we could find a way. And I think maybe we have an issue that says support more metadata in .info files. Maybe we could actually have module maintainers add a line that says porting status, like if it's stable or if it has known issues. We can incorporate that. Like that was the purpose of that issue, to have more data that would help us do things.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Will you check that issue and see if there's already a suggested?
Yeah. What I'm going to do is, like, because there's too many ideas in my head now, I'm going to rewatch this video and that's just file separate issues with the ideas that we just had brainstormed now.
Yeah. Good thinking today, guys. We're really on it, or you are really.
We have ideas, now we need to put code where our mouth is.
So many ideas.
I better slip it up and pull my weight here.
Okay, let's see. Next issue, second item on the agenda.
Before we go there, sorry, real quick, Jen. Should we put the matter of having a staging site for b.org for testing things on the plate as well and ask?
I think we might already have an issue for that, but yes, if you're going to rewatch this later, maybe you could check and find out.
Yes, I will.
So speaking of new servers, next issue on our agenda is number 422, which is to add a give me a demo button on Backdrop's homepage. We're currently set up to use Tugboat. For some reason, Tugboat stopped working with our older server. Our older server was running an older version of PHP, so we're building a newer server that uses new versions of PHP. That issue is almost done. It needs testing. So for those of you who want to help test, we basically just need to make sure backdropcms.org, api.backdropcms.org, forum.backdropcms.org, localize.backdropcms.org. I think that's it. all work on the new server. And so I linked to a specific comment in the queue that describes how you can test that. So the server is up. We just need to trick our computer to look at that server instead of the real server. And you do that by adding a record in your hosts file. So if you're familiar with that, all of the information on how to add that information to your host file is in that comment that I linked to in the, today's agenda. So we just need to make sure everything's working fine. You can go ahead and log into the sites. If you're an admin on any of them, you can check and see if any like errors are appearing in the database log and stuff like that. But in theory, it should all be fine. The only issue is the localized site is Drupal 7, and Drupal 7 doesn't always work great on PHP 7. I think we've got, we're on the latest version, so there are a bunch of core patches that have gone in that have fixed that, but there could be some contrib modules we're running also new patches to make it work better on PHP 7. So that's the only thing I'm really worried about. My local instance is running PHP 7, and I run all those sites here, and they have been fine so far. So the other thing to check would just be to make sure that like nothing's super broken or missing or whatever. And they should have fairly recent databases, so that should be helpful too.
I have tested this briefly for Justin when he implemented it, like the site. And then I think shortly after, could have been a few hours during the day that we have the meeting or a few days after, Nate mentioned that it might be a PHP 7 versus 5 issue. Since the server, the new one, is running the PHP 7, does that mean that the button might work there?
Yes, we should test the button too.
You haven't tested it?
I haven't tested it yet.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a big thing. And we have that dedicated page where we can just go to the page and then there's a button on the page and click that and see if it'll work.
Yep.
All right, so as part of getting a new server, right now, that's a good place where I was thinking about pushing the branch that redoes the Multithemes and layout pages to use the view modes for testing there as well. So maybe I'll push that up and we can see if that works the way we think it does. And then the other thing was, in general, what are we going to do about testing? And I was thinking we probably should put like a beta version of every site we have somewhere for testing for this purpose. I'm not sure all of them will be used all the time, but I'm pretty sure backdropcms.org will get used a ton. So just having them there so that we can do things like make drastic changes. I think the forum site too, that it's possible that we'll add some crazy new feature there and we'll want to test it first. The API site doesn't get a lot of attention, but yeah, and localized, we've got a bunch of people using that. So if we want to make their experience better, that would be a good thing to do. So I think there's probably an issue in the queue that talks about having beta sites somewhere. I think there is. If not, we might just mention it to Justin and see how he feels about it. One thing we could do is we're about to have a Linode that's not being used anymore, right? Because we're moving all of our stuff to the new one. We could scrap the old one, build another new one, and then copy, like the Linode has like a copy this Linode button. We could copy it over, which would be all of the configuration and everything, and then maybe Justin could go in and change them so they're all like beta sites instead. So that might be a really easy way to get us like an exact copy of the same server, which would be great for testing purposes.
Okay.
Okay, backed up the product. Version 1.13 will have feature freeze on May 1st, which is just over a month away. And we have a bunch of great new issues for core that we would love to see and that specifically are going to improve usability. My favorite one is dashboard module, which is number 495. So far, I think, Gregory, you have a bunch of minor nits that you're going to submit. Nate also looked at it and rejected it, saying it needs tests, of course. So I know I have an issue, or I would like to revisit it and start working on tests so that we can get that tested. And then if you have any string changes or whatever, they should be pretty easy to replace some tests as well. And then we have save draft in core was proposed for 1.13. This is issue number 3157. Nobody's actually started working on this yet. I think we have several other issues with parts of it. I went down the rabbit hole a couple of weeks ago and ended up being like, oh, there's like 8 issues that are all different parts of it and nobody can really agree on whatever. And so I think I closed all the other ones and I'm like, this is just save draft in core. It's got like a clear title. We should just do this thing. But since then, there's no pull request on this issue. So I don't know if it would make sense to revisit the old pull request or just start from the contrib module or what. Yeah, we don't have one for review yet for 113. So if we want to get this in the next month, we definitely need to have something soon. I don't know that we're that far away because we already have a working contrib solution. But the fact that we don't have anything yet is making me a little bit nervous. So I added a comment there today saying, "So we want to work on this, we're only a month away." But yeah, we'll see.
We tend to be more active the last month before
Yeah.
the feature is.
The next issue on the usability list is promoted modules on the installer. I looked at this again today. I think the main blocker here is that nobody really knows where to start. So I was thinking, and I do this every now and then, when there's an issue that has a whole bunch of comments on it, I go through and read the whole thing and have like open in 2 tabs, and I edit the parent issue, and I try and make like a to-do list based on all of the things that people mentioned in the comments. And then that way you at least kind of looking at the top issue, get an idea of like what it is we have to do. I know we've talked about it a couple of times where we have stuff to do on backdropcms.org, we have stuff to do in project module, we have stuff to do in a bunch of different places that all have to get tied together. I don't think any of those need to happen in a particular order. Just the fact that we don't have them written down, I think, is making everybody look at this issue and go, looks hard. So I don't know if there's another issue where we have that written down cleanly. I feel like someone has done this before. I thought it was you, Gregory, where we did very clearly state exactly what needed to happen.
There's pretty good chances that it was, yes.
Yeah, but I didn't see it in this issue right now. So maybe it would be worth figuring out where that is and putting it in there.
Yeah, I had some halfway sort of like finished pull requests for other usability issues and other issues as well. So, and some of them are actually RTBC. I looked, we have like 13 issues that are RTBC now. Quite of them are bugs, and there's a couple, maybe 2 or 3 of them that are kind of serious. But there's a few other things that we are trying to get in, like redesigning or revamping a bit the maintenance mode page.
That one's RTBC again.
Yeah. And then what else was it? I think there was another. Anyways, I might be missing things now.
So that's in our design issues was the maintenance page thing, which is great. But yeah, there are a ton of usability stuff, and I don't know if that all came from you, but I feel like you've been on every one of those issues lately. And it is really exciting to see all those little changes.
Look, I might be annoying at times because I
no.
When
Never
I hit
annoying.
not annoying in the fact that there's many pull requests that I have filed and people have commented and they're in need work, but then I get excited about other stuff. So I need to get back to those that need work, and I will let you know, guys, if I need help with anything, because sometimes I get myself into way much trouble than I can handle, like skill-wise. But yeah, at least the PRs are there for someone to just pick them up and just continue where I'm from wherever I'm blocked. I'll try to prioritize the low-hanging fruits and the usability issues, because these are the ones that are making great impact, sort of like for the next releases to have products. But yeah. So it was that about promoted. Oh yeah, the other one was the one about the names of the fields. The fields. That was a good one. So I think that we should either merge your pull request first, because that's I did take a look at it, and Olaf, I think, tried it as well. If we merge your pull request first, then we should update mine to use the functions, the new functions. Or if we merge mine first, which is I think RTBC, then yours should go and replace the functions that I use with the new ones that you enter. So either way would be great.
So for those of you who aren't aware of this, this is an issue that makes it easier to get the name of a field, the human readable name of a field, which is a little tricky because sometimes when you add a field to multiple content types, it has different labels in each place. And so I wrote a helper function that will go and get the field, all of its instances, all of its labels, and it sorts them by how frequently they're used. So like if you have a body field that on 9 content types is body, and then one of its description, then in the list of fields, it should say body. I wrote a function that gets all of the names for a given field. And then I wrote another function that gets the most popular name for a given field. So that if you're going to build something, like for example, in NodeQ, there's a list of fields. It was showing the machine name. And I'm like, I know it's easy to get the machine name, but that like when you're importing from Drupal 7, like it was like taxonomy term 1, taxonomy term 2, taxonomy term 3. And I'm like, I don't know what these are. Like the machine names were really not useful. So I was like, I need the field labels there. And so then of course I went into the rabbit hole trying to get a field label, and I realized it was really hard, and I realized we needed a function. And then I was like, well, where can I implement it? And then I found the like field list page. And of course, Gregory had already created an issue that was like, why are there no human readable names in the field list page or something?
And big thanks to OP there, because he figured out how to get the sorting going without it being a DB query. I think that we should do small iterative sort of like fixing or issues that we find. Each time that I start working on that issue, I get bothered by the fact that we have a separate tab that says used in views. And now that we have the list that sort of like lists the multiple places where a single field is, I don't see why not merge that, but I'm not gonna bring that up because I really want that to get merged, and then we can follow up. And there's also the use case that we have fields being used as blocks in layouts. So these could be listed there. So if one person needs to do something with a field like move it or remove it, and they wanna see, all right, where is this being used? They will have all the content types and what this field is called for its content type, all the views it's being used to, and perhaps displays, and then all the layouts where it's being used and what regions. So they have a big overview. But let's get those small ones that are almost ready in, and the other ones.
I just had an idea. So rather than making your pull request depend on mine, I could take the 2 functions that I wrote and just put them into your pull request.
Yeah, but then we're sort of like scope creeping.
But if the issue is like add the human readable name, like we really need the, I don't know, maybe we'll ask in the development meeting.
Because Nate might come in and say that yours requires tests, and then we're going to delay the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, he's going to say mine requires tests anyway. But since I'm working on tests for dashboard, I'm going to have to get my head into test land, and then I might as well just write tests for everything. There's another issue that broken layout clone thing needs tests, and so I just need to. It's the tricky because tests are hard, but once you like get your head in them, then you're like, oh, I get how they work. But then every time I leave them alone for a couple months, I forget how they work again, and then I have to get back into it. So
yeah, I'm at a level where I can sort of like fix 90% of the things if it's string changes over certain functions, but I'm not there yet. Yeah, I'm not there yet. I would love to be able to speak test language, but yeah. I know people keep saying that it's not hard, but yeah.
It's different than the rest of Backdrop, which is what I struggle with a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. The only other issue we haven't yet talked about that's in our agenda is adding predefined color schemes to Basis. I think we talked about this in our last design meeting. The current issue is that we ran all the colors through an accessibility checker, and we have some issues with our color palettes where we can't get an accessible combination of colors with the current number of settings that are provided. Sometimes you have like one color on one background, and if you change the top color, then it's not enough accessible background. Change the background color, it's not enough contrast with the foreground. And so we were trying to figure out what to do about that. I had an idea, which was like for those particular color palettes, maybe we could add some kind of a CSS gradient to make the lighter ones, if they're too light, darker, or the darker ones, if they're too dark, lighter. And maybe that would be like a way we could work around for those particular color palettes, how to adjust the contrast to make it accessible. I don't know if that's possible. I haven't looked at the code yet, but that was my idea. I keep saying it out loud, but not writing it in the issue. So I can write the issue today. But yeah, so that's it for core issues. I know there's a ton of usability stuff that came up recently that's tagged for the 113 milestone or even the next bug fix milestone. I haven't gone through the issues to see if there's anything that needs to be added to the agenda. I know Gregory brought up a couple things which are relevant. I don't know if there's anything else that you think is high level enough that we need to talk about it today.
Not specifically now, maybe when we are closer to the feature freeze. But most of the usability issues are marked as tasks or bugs, so they might get in during bug fix releases. The only thing that I noticed is, as I mentioned earlier, if you filter the issue list by RTBC status, we have 13 issues currently there. And I think there's a couple of more that are almost there. And quite a few of them, maybe 5 or 6, do not have a milestone set, but they have the candidate. That would be great. Like if you or Nate or anyone else can go through them and sort of like see if they're a fit for the 112 or 113.
So Nate, I know, always works through the RTBC list. That's his go-to. He doesn't necessarily look at what's in any given milestone. So that will get his attention. His RTBC will get his attention even if it doesn't have a milestone on it. I don't know Herb Duel's working process, but I noticed that he's been super on top of stuff that's been coming in lately, giving it like technical reviews and opinions and stuff. And I think he even added like a couple milestone candidates recently too. So yeah, I think that in general, that's good. I never look at the RTBC queue. Maybe I will and see. I know, Greg, you've been using that label a lot, so I'd be happy to go in second to your milestone candidate recommendation.
Yeah, I think it was Herb that mentioned that we need another status, like we have the RTBC, and then we should encourage more people that are not technical to mark issues as RTBC if it works. And then if it needs code review, we'll have a separate tag for that. So that someone with more skills should just, see if code-wise things are looking good.
Okay, that's a good idea, because I was playing with issue labels today.
That's what I mentioned, yeah.
Needs code review tag. Okay.
Wait, but what color should they be?
All of the needs tags are pink. They all match. Got it figured out, thanks. All right, well, it is 1 p.m., which means it's time for our weekly developer meeting. So let's go ahead and wrap this one. And if you guys have other thoughts or comments, you're welcome to hop into the next meeting and ask them there. Does that sound good?
Just a final thought on that, because I know you're going to work on the tags next. Instead of making it a pink needs code review, maybe we could have a green tag that's similar to RTBC that says RTBC and then also code reviewed.
Okay.
So we have 2 green ticks and then...
Yeah, that sounds good. So I'll make it a status label then instead of a needs label.
As in code has been reviewed, yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, see you guys in a minute.
Yep.